So here's a close-up of that fun Star Wars themed Rey card. I really like how she turned out, although in this one, I think I did her belt a little too low, so we'll do it a little higher this one. But I'm really excited to share this project with you guys. If you guys don't already know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so this was kind of one of the picture inspirations for doing her. And I had a bunch of different versions, played with it a whole bunch, and came up with this design. So here's a couple other variants, so you can see it was a process. But to make this, let me move that out to the side. Today we're going to be using the Beautiful You stamp set, which is a wonderful stamp set to have. I've got the whole one right here, but we're only using the lady with the hat for this one. In this video, I'm using the wood, but you can do the same thing with the clear. We're also going to be using the Night in Bethlehem stamp set, specifically for this background right here, for just kind of the desert city. Besides that, we're going to use a couple different ink colors, because you can never have just one. So a little So Saffron and Real Red for the suns, some Marina Mist for the sky. We've got some Sahara Sand for the sand, of course. And we're also going to be hitting a little early espresso on there as well for some texture around the edge and for the base of the card. Oh, and I'm forgetting. And some soft suede. So just a few colors. Besides that, we're also going to be using several colors from the Neutrals marker set. So you want to just go ahead and get the whole pack, of course. But the Neutrals markers are awesome. Specifically, we're going to be keeping with the browns. So the Sahara Sand, the basic gray, the soft suede, and of course our basic black. The other thing we're going to be using too is the small Stampin' Up! Journaling pen. Now it comes in 0.5 and 0.1. I found the 0.1 is a little easier, but you can do the same with the 0.5. So either small fine tip will work for this, and you'll see once we get there in a second. For the words, which you can add or not, I use the Labeler Alphabet. Okay. And then our card base today is in Sahara Sand as well. And for our basic square, I'm using Very Vanilla, but you could also use Whisper White if you prefer, and this is in our favorite size, the 4 by 5 1/4, so a little bit bigger. Alright, so you guys got all of that? So let's get started. Now I have the camera a little closer just so you guys can see some of this here. Alright, so we're going to start with our piece and our fun lady from the Beautiful You set, and just one of our basic black markers. Now if you didn't know this trick, this is a really handy trick to know, is that you can color directly on the markers, or on the stamps with the markers, because they are made to do that. So for this, we're going to be coloring the lady in, and hopefully I can get this in the camera, but not the whole lady. We don't really need the hat for this. So we're just going to be coloring the parts that we want to transfer. So for this, I'm going to be coloring just down the side of her dress. So pretty much the bottom half is pretty good. Her hand, that kind of cleavage line, the edge, the little V for the neckline, and her shoulder. They're all really good. Then also her other arm. And that little line for the neck. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. And then we're also going to do the side of the arm and the top of the hand that's on top of the head. Alright, so now we have this hat. Now we don't want all of this hat detail, but we do want her lips. So we're just doing a little dot where the lips are and her chin. And then I like to do a dot at the top of the hat. This is going to be a guide for when we round out the head. And then just one on the kind of the side of the hair. That makes sense. So hopefully you guys can see some of that. I don't know how well it showed up in the camera. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and stamp her. To the right side of the card, so we have room for all the rest of the fun stuff. And you do want to leave a little room so you can draw her boots. Ta-da! Okay, so you can see she came out kind of light, but that's fine. So we're kind of did not ink up the hat and a lot of this, so it didn't show up, which is fine because we're going to be doing some extra detailed drawing to kind of make Rey come alive. Now I'm going to switch from my basic black pen to my my journaling pen. Okay, 0.1 here. And as a handy reference, I did this one too, so you guys can see, because I'm not sure how well the lines are going to show up, so I went ahead and did this so you guys can follow along with me. Okay, so the red lines are all the lines that we're going to be adding to her to kind of add that definition here. Let me throw this one on here too. And this one's in the white versus the very vanilla. So you can kind of see there's a couple steps of progress. Now this looks complicated. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera. But I'll walk you step by step. It's really not that hard. We're just adding all of those fun Rey details to kind of make that robe and that belt and just kind of give her that desert look. So once we get started, you'll see it's pretty easy. All right, so the first thing we're going to start with is we're going to start with the arms because they're really easy. She's just got these two braces on her forearms. So right here, there's this nice little crease. So we're just going to kind of add that line right there to that crease. And then do another one from the top just across. So that's her upper sleeve on that side. And then we're also going to go ahead and draw a small line just to make that a sleeveless top. Same thing on the other side, just a small line, sleeveless top. And then going down that arm, there's this fun little line crease just above that. We're going to go ahead and add another curved line. And then this other one practically is already there, so we're just going to add that one. So now we have her two arm sleeves, which you can see on here. All right. And next thing is we're going to go ahead and add that crisscross sash, look. So starting from the point of her V-neck, we're going to draw a line straight down and across, just like that, just like she's wearing a sash. And then we're also going to draw another line from kind of the side of the hip, because our beautiful you lady is very curvy, and Rey is kind of the typical teenager that doesn't quite have this much hip. We're going to kind of fill her out a little bit more. So we're going to start with the top of the hip and just draw a line straight up, just like that, to kind of fill her out. You can do a little bit of another line on the other side, just like that. So just kind of fills her out a little bit. And then we're also going to, just to kind of accent the fact that it is a crisscrossed sash look, we're going to do another little line that's just a slight hoop. Just kind of like that, if you guys can see that. And once we color it, it'll make a little bit more sense. All right, so we've got the top half of the body so far. And actually, when I inked this, I didn't get the neck very good, so I'm going to fix the neck right there. Okay, we'll come back to the head in a minute. All right, so now we're going to move down and do the belt. Now on this one, okay, on this one, I did the belt pretty low in the hips, and I actually think she looks better if it's a little higher. So we're going to scoot it up a little bit higher, but it's just kind of, let's get her in the shot there. Okay. So you guys can see. Okay, but it's just kind of personal preference where you want the belt to sit, and as you play with it, you'll kind of get a little more feel. But I'm going to start my top line for the belt up a little higher. So we're just going to do just a high little curve right there. All right. And then for the bottom, now we're kind of making like a Y on the hip, if that makes sense. So for the bottom, we're just going to kind of go down or up and across, just like that. And then add that little triangle chunk on the side, just like that. Now, as I said before, it'll all look a lot better once we color it. All right, so continuing down, we're going to go ahead and do the side of her robe, I guess, slash down. I'm not quite sure what to call all the pieces of her outfit. So we're going to start with a V right here at the top, kind of wind-blown look here. And then from the corner of the belt down, we're going to just kind of make it flare out a little bit. And you can do kind of some little loose curves or you know, however you want to do it. If you want to do sharp points or more curved lines, it doesn't really matter. So just getting that edge, and then same here, there's that little outer edge of the stamp set. I'm going to go ahead and take that and kind of close it off a little bit. And then I also liked having that secondary piece of fabric. So we're just going to draw another little triangle underneath, just like that. All right, so now we need to turn this from a dress to a pair of pants. How do we do that? Well, you draw a line and make a line where her legs are. So just kind of, you don't want to go all the way up to the crotch, so we want to go down a little bit. Just draw a line straight down, doesn't have to be perfect. And we don't want to go too long, but there's the line, a little bit of a line for the edge of the dress. And so this is a really good marker that for either the pants or the top of the boots, depending on how long you want her to be. All right, so I think for this one, I'm gonna have that be the, let's see. Yeah, we'll have that be the edge of the pants. So this will be the top of the boots down here. Okay, so for top of the boots, just a little bit of a curve, just like that. And then my boots are not perfect, but you know, you just do the best you can. So you're going to start with the one to the right that's on the outside, and we're just going to give it a little bit of a bump and line it back, just like that. So nothing very complicated. Her shoes are not the focus of this, but we do want her to have some on her feet. And then same thing with the other one, just a little slight bump behind the other one, just like that. And as I said, once we color her in, it'll all pop a little better. All right, so now we're going to move back up to the head, which is a little bit of a trickier part, but I think you guys will get this pretty easily. Now you can draw the line for the top of her hand, but she doesn't have to have it, because once you add the color, it'll make it all make sense. But we're going to start, so right at the top of her hand, she's kind of has it resting on top of her head. So we're going to just kind of do a slight curve from the top of where her hand is all the way back to the back of the neck, just like that. Kind of rounding out that head. We're going to go a little bit down below the hand, just like that. Okay. Now, the picture I have does not really show her defining feature in this outfit, which is the 3-bun hairstyle, which is very trendy. But it's really, really simple to draw. We're just going to do one big bubble on top, kind of like a top bun, and then a slightly smaller one underneath. And then the last one kind of drips down a little bit, so it's more of like a teardrop style bun. So just like that. And that will give us our 3 buns for her hair. Now, if you want, you can add eyes and ears. Honestly, I've tried and they always tend to look a little muddy for this scale, but totally up to you. So what I did to get around that is basically cover most of her face with hair. It's a wind-blown desert, so I figure we can get away with it. So now let's move on. So you can kind of see, like, one more shot here. This in frame, okay. So you guys can see the lines that we added. Okay, so now let's get to coloring, and she will really just kind of come to life. So I like to start with the Sahara Sand. Now, this is kind of the base color for her outfit and for most of what she's wearing here. So we're going to go ahead and add those arm braces with the Sahara Sand. Just like that. Pretty easy. And then her sash, or robe, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to color that in. And then this like little extra that we had on the back, just to kind of make it look like it's behind her a little bit. And you can color this one Sahara Sand too, or leave it white if you want her shirt underneath. And we're going to do this. Okay, and then the little V right there. And don't forget other just little side details. All right, so now we've got our basic Sahara Sand done. All right, so next color we're going to go ahead and knock out is the gray. Now her pants are a little bit darker. It kind of differentiates them from the gray robe. So we're just going to color those. I probably should have done them a little higher, but that's okay. The line, I mean. I guess if you wanted to do these in Sahara Sand, you could too. I would just do them extra time to make them a little darker. And I know that looks black right now, but it'll dry here in a second, a little clearer. So the next color we're going to be using is the chocolate chip. Depending on when you're watching this, we may no longer have chocolate chips, so you could use any of our other browns, or you could do the Sahara, the soft suede extra dark. So just personal preference on that, but we're only using this for her belt and boots, so it's just kind of to make those stand out. So as I said, you can get away with using a couple other colors, but kind of liked making this stand out a little bit more. Okay, just like that. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to her hair, which I think is fun. You could also do the soft suede for the belt too. I think I might have done that for this other one. Okay, I apologize if I had some technical difficulties. Apparently my camera is acting up. So hopefully we're good now. But we just colored the belt and the boots with the chocolate chip, which if you don't have that, you could use the soft suede. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the hair, which I definitely did with the soft suede. I think it's a really good hair color. So we're just going to fill in those bubbles, little buns. Really simple. And then for her hair, we're just going to kind of loop it around. And you want to leave a little bit of a, I guess, loop for where her ear would be, even though we're not drawing her ear. Okay. Just kind of see like that. And then what I liked is having kind of the long bangs. To me, it kind of helped hide where the eyes would be. So we're just going to kind of do long line to the right side and one to the other side. Just kind of filling in where needed. You guys can kind of see that. I know it looks a little darker in here than the white because it's the very vanilla. So, and then the last touch, of course, is the skin tone. Now, I absolutely am in love with the Stampin' Blends. Now, this is the ivory, which is perfect for white people skin tones. If you don't have that, you could also use the powder pink or any of our really soft, lighter pinks. But let me tell you, this works the best. And it's got that nice pointy tip, which is really good for some of these fine details. So we're just going to go ahead and color her skin in. Sure to get her legs. Tiny bit of face. Just like that. Okay, so you can see she's really coming together. All right, the next thing I like to do, and to me this just kind of makes the fabric look a little more like it's moving. If you look in the picture yet again, which I know this is not the best picture, it's a very crinkly fabric. It's got a lot of lines, a lot of creases. Obviously, she doesn't have an iron in the desert. So to kind of add that effect, what I like to do is just draw a bunch of little tiny lines using that fine tip marker yet again. And to me, that just kind of gives it a little bit more definition. There's no really right or wrong way. We're just kind of going with the grains of the fabric, just kind of how it would be sitting. If you messed up on an area, you can kind of try to hide it with a line or two. So just like that. Okay. So pretty straightforward. So that's how we do the basic Rey. Now I did intentionally leave some of this white because she does have a undershirt on, but if you want to do the whole thing in Sahara, you definitely could. All right, so now we've got our basic Rey done. We're going to go ahead and move on to stamping our background. Now I like to just go ahead and start with the cityscape first, the city line. And for that, we're going to stamp with the soft suede. Just a really nice shade of brown. Now, because this is so long, we don't really need to ink the whole thing up. So we're only going to do about half to 2/3 of it. You know, no need to waste ink if it's not all going to be on the card. Okay, do a quick check. And we're just going to stick this off to the side, so just like it's in the distance. Give it a good press down. And straight up. And yet again, that'll lighten a little bit, although this is a very juicy ink pad. If you don't have soft suede, you could also do that in black or the early espresso. All right, next thing we're going to go ahead and do our two suns. So for this, I used the Real Red and the So Saffron, which of course you can use any of the other wonderful colors. These are just really quick and easy. So for the So Saffron, I've got my little sponge dauber. I'm just going to ink it up and do one circle and give it a little bit of a twist. So press straight down and a little bit of a twist and boom, instant sun, so quick, so easy. You're done with the yellow. Now we're on to the Real Red. And for that one, I kind of wanted it to be the bigger of the two and kind of off to the side. So yet again, I got the sponge dauber. If you don't have the daubers, you can use this regular Stampin' Sponges too. And so we're just going to kind of just do a little bit of a swoop in the corner. Kind of pressing and turning. This kind of, this one is just off to the side. Main thing for this one is just to make sure that your outer line looks kind of curved and intentional. I think that's pretty good. All right, so we're going to move that out of the way so you can see just how quick that was. All right, next thing we're going to go ahead and move on to is our sand. So of course she's on a desert planet. There is tons of sand. So we're going to use the Sahara sand. You could also throw a little soft suede on there as well. And then I just made a mask. So this is just a scrap that I took the edge and tore it. And you can do kind of any rough shape, but you do want it to be rough and have some kind of hills and valleys going on. So we've got that, and we've got our Sahara sand sponge. And we're just going to ink it up. And you want to start below your city. But the placement is not have to be perfect, but you want to ink it up right against that edge so that when you pull it away, you have that clear definition that there was some kind of hill, sandy dune right there. Ta-da! See, like that? All right. Other handy thing is to kind of move it around, do some different spots so that it doesn't look uniform, because I mean, it's the desert, it's not going to be uniform. And we're going to definitely add layers to this. Just going back and forth on top along that edge. I think you guys get the idea here. sure to hold that. Okay. Okay, and you can get it looking a little more grainy by stamping straight up and down versus across. A little more sandy. All right, and be sure to add a little bit behind her as well. But you don't want to go too high into our horizon line. So I think you guys get the idea there. So you can add more, you can add less. Everyone will be a little different just depending on how you tore your paper. But you do want to be sure that you get all the way up to that city so it's not just floating in mid-air, it is sitting on the sand. And if you want to do a sharp horizon line, you definitely can. Just do a line, like a mask. You can do a sharp horizon line like that. Okay, so you get the idea. So that's how we do our sand. So now we're going to move on to our sky. And similarly, we're going to use the Marina Mist and do some light sponging up top. Now, because we've got so much already going on the top, we're going to kind of go very light and loose with the sponging on top. Now, what I mean when I say light and loose is you don't want to go super heavy, because if you do ink all over top her or our sun, we're going to have a green sun and she's going to be blue and from a different series. So we're just going to do light sponging just kind of around her. Can kind of add more, and then same thing with around our sun. Now you can go on right on top of the brown city just because it's a darker shade and it won't really affect the color. Okay. Now another trick is you can squish it up in your fingers if you have like little areas that you want to try to get. So like right here, just kind of smush it up a little bit. Same thing for like right next to this sun. There we go. All right, so you guys get the idea there. That's a little starker of a line than I intended, but we get the idea. All right, so there we have our basic background with Ray going on. I think it's looking pretty awesome. Hopefully you guys agree with me. Now, the other thing that I added to this is I sponged all the way around the edge. Because honestly, you know, it's desert, it's dirty. So I grabbed the Early Espresso and yet again my sponge dauber, and I just kind of went around the edge just like this and just kind of gave it a little bit of more of a dirty, sandy look. Which if you don't want to do espresso, if you think that's too dark, you could definitely do the soft suede or another color, just like that. And then same thing with our card base here. I'll go ahead and fold that over. Did the same thing with my card base, just kind of going around the edge with that Early Espresso. So I'm just kind of adding some streaks here. Now keep in mind, you're not going to see the very center, so no need to waste ink on that. So we're just hitting the edges here. Okay, there we go. So you can test it, stick it on there and see how much of it you see. See, not very much. All right, so that to me just kind of gives it a little bit more of a weathered look. Now for the words, of course, I had it say, "May the Force be with you," but you could have it say, you know, "Use the Force," or, you know, "Join the light side." There's any number of options. So for this, I use the Labeler alphabet, and specifically these letters, not the ones that have the black boxes. Handy tip when using the letters: really useful to do a piece of washi tape to kind of help you line it up. I've found that really works for me. Now, depending on what phrase you're using, sometimes you may be using multiple letters and you'll have to rearrange. So for this one, I needed the extra E and the O, so I had to kind of split it up. But up to you. But for this, all I would do is ink it up and stick it straight on. And then go ahead and switch out my letters and do the same thing. Now keep in mind, because you're flipping it, you need to line them up backwards, which I know is a little confusing. But thankfully with the clear blocks, you can flip it over and see exactly what you spelled before you ink it and stick it on. Alright, so that's how I did that. Just for the sake of time, I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave this one blank. But you guys can add whatever you want on there. I mean, this could easily be a birthday card, encouragement, anything like that. So we're just going to go ahead and just glue our front on. And then, of course, you're going to want to glue a center on. And we are done. So just like that. Okay, so thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this card tutorial. For a full list of all the Stampin' Up! Products that I used, do check out the video description below. There'll be direct links to my Stampin' Up! Store. If you're planning on placing an order, I'd really appreciate it if you would do that through those links. As always guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.